Hi there. Thanks for tuning in. This is the Follow Your Passion podcast. I'm your host, Erwin Wils. I'm a mindset and business strategist and founder of Millionaire Life Strategy. In this podcast, I'm interviewing my clients and other entrepreneurs that are following their passion and make a good living out of it. When you want to know more about me or what I can do for you, check out my website, millionaireLifestrategy.com. But first, check out this episode of Follow Your Passion. Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of Follow Your Passion. Let me introduce my guest of today. His name is Jeff Mains, and Jeff is the founder and CEO of Champion Leadership Group, a growth accelerator that teaches entrepreneurs to take future-proof companies while achieving profit, freedom, and impact. And he knows what he's talking about because he is leveraging his experience building 5 companies to over $200 million in combined revenue. And he equips leaders to live into their full potential. He has helped B2B, SaaS, and technology CEOs cross the Death Valley, as he says, and grow annual revenue beyond 10 million dollars. He's also the author of the best-selling business book, Small Fish, Big Pond, Building a World-Class Business That Swims Circles Around Competitors. And he was selected as CEO of the Year by CEO Monthly March 2021 for guidance and leadership of fellow CEOs during the pandemic. So I might say we have a serial entrepreneur on our hands, people. Welcome, Jeff. How are you doing?
Thank you. Thank you, Erwin. Doing fantastic.
Nice. So, Jeff, tell me about how did you start yourself as an entrepreneur? Was it already in your veins or?
Yeah, I've been entrepreneurial since I was young and always looking for opportunities. And so it was something that I think was somewhat inevitable. It certainly wasn't something that I grew up with. And so, it's very unique. There aren't really other entrepreneurs in my family. There are now.
Yeah.
But, growing up, it wasn't that way. It was more, the expectation of get a job and stay there long term and, expect to be with a company 20, 30 years. And that just sounded not fun. And I like variety. I like to do new things. I like to learn, just a constant student of the world. And so always looking for opportunities to make money or having ideas or, what if we could do this and turn this into a business? And so really that's where a lot of it came from, was just having a very curious mind.
Nice. So would you consider yourself to be the eternal student?
Absolutely. And I'm still learning. If I go a day without learning something, I think it's a day wasted. But it's not just learning, but it's how can I apply that? How does that apply to what I'm doing today? How could it apply to something tomorrow? How does it relate to things that I already know? Or does it stretch what I think I know into something new, to something different, to something better?
Yeah. So you made a big success with your first company and then you decided to sell it or start your second company, or how did it work for you?
But the first successes were small. And so you have a small success and then that turns into another one and another one. And you think about, what do I want to do next? And so there's always a next idea, always something new, always something, if I could do something different, what would that be? And thinking about how do I make that happen? What problem can I solve? What problem, a lot of them have been, what problem am I having today that other people are experiencing that same problem, and how can we create a solution for that?
Nice. And what was the moment you decided to sell your company? Because I as I understand it correctly, you sold 4 of your 5 companies?
Right. Well, I mean, you sell when somebody comes along with a great offer that you can't refuse.
Yeah.
And then the timing is good. And it's a little bit different now looking back. What would I do today different than back then? I think, today I'm a lot more interested in, what is the long-term future of the company? What do they want to do? Where are they going? What happens to the people? And so those were things that I really didn't think that much about. I did a little bit, but not nearly as much as I do today. I didn't back then.
Yeah. But as you said, it's a learning process. So it made you the man that you're today.
Absolutely.
So what's this exact passion of yours? Is it building companies, or is it helping company owners to do the same? Or
It's really been both. I think early on it was more about building something and what I could do, and over time that's really transitioned to be helping other people do the same thing. I want to be the mentor I wish that I'd had back in the early days.
I think that's a beautiful quote you just said. You want to be the mentor you wish you had back in the days. So
Right.
that beautiful, but that's also how you can leave your legacy, right?
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah, it's a lot more about, instead of just being about my success, I mean, what can we build together? What can we do? How can I help somebody else along that same journey? So they don't have to learn from their own mistakes. I've made plenty for both of us.
Yeah.
And so, but working together, with other entrepreneurs, we all learn from each other. So there are still things that I learn from them on a regular basis, as well as being able to teach and share that. But a lot of it is about not making mistakes, and not one of them seemed dumb at the time. But I made, looking back, there are a lot of really dumb mistakes, and I still make those. And even
Yeah.
looking back 1, 2, 3, 5 years, and I look back and I just kind of cringe at some of the decisions. It was like that should have been really obvious that wasn't the right decision, but I've grown since then. And
Yeah.
so just thinking about that, and if you don't have those moments, maybe you're not growing enough.
So could you mention one of those moments that you look back of it, and how could you have ever done that and made such a decision?
I think some in hiring, some in delegating. Like I've delegated things and then just
Hmm.
kind of thrown them over the fence. That's probably one of the big ones. Is I don't know a lot about this area, so I'll hire somebody that does and just throw it over the fence and hope that they take care of it. And that's not delegation.
Yeah.
That's abdication, and that absolutely will come back to bite you, and it has. And so it's really how do I delegate? How do I delegate effectively? How do I create accountability within that process? What should be measured? What's important? How do we know what success looks like? So
Yeah.
even bringing on new people, not just hiring somebody in a role because we need that role and nobody's doing it today, so it needs to be done. Not just hiring and saying, okay, go figure it out, but actually building a process. What does it look like? Helping define, what do we need out of that role? What does success look like? And that's really only fair to the employee as it is to the company.
Yeah, definitely.
Because if we just throw them out there and then we're going to measure you on something, but none of us really know what it is, and you're just supposed to make it up. How do we know if you're doing well or not?
Yeah.
Uh, you know,
Yeah, it made me reminding a manager I once had. He was from Belgium. I'm from the Netherlands, and he made this remark like he was always curious why, if you ask somebody to do something for us, we expect them to do it. Right?
right,
He said, if you delegate something, you're still accountable for it, right?
right,
If because you're asking somebody else to do your job, but it's still your job, so you're still accountable for it. So if you want to have it done right, you should check up on it and not expect them to do it. And
right,
I thought that was a great advice at the moment, and I truly recognize with myself making that mistake. And it's what you said. I always tell my clients as well that if you want to grow your business, you won't build some momentum. You have to automate, delegate, or eliminate tasks you don't want to do anymore, because so you can spend your time and energy on the tasks you're good at. But
right,
at least you should know the fundamentals. It's what you just said. If let's for instance say that you're outsourcing your social media, right, and the paid ads, for instance. If you don't know how it works, you got no ground on measuring whether or not the outsourcing party or the delegated person is performing on that.
right.
And that's just and that's you learn by making those mistakes once and learn from it.
Right. And even better to have somebody along with you on that journey to help you not make those mistakes. But it is, I think that you're correct. It really is a partnership in working together. So it's not just hiring somebody and throwing something over the fence and go do this, but you're actually working on it together. There's collaboration in there. And I think that's really, really powerful.
Yeah. So tell me about your first book, The Small Fish, Big Pond. What inspired you to write a book?
Well, I've been asked to write a book for a number of years, and put it off and put it off, and just had the right opportunity. Publisher came to me and said, let's do this, and so I said yes. And so a year and a half later, I was still working on it, and so it was a lot more difficult than I thought, and at the same time, I think a lot more rewarding, because just the kind of wrestling with the content, how to present it. I didn't want to just write another book that put people to sleep, and so it's looking at entrepreneurship through the world of fish. And so it is a combination of looking at lessons from nature and from the world of fish and relating that to entrepreneurship, but there's also story in there as well. So it is a story that goes throughout the book, and then there are various pieces kind of woven in and out of my journey as well. So it's something that is definitely entertaining. One person described it, it's a business book that doesn't know it's a business book.
Oh, that's a nice description.
Yes. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
And so it is. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of it engages both the left and right brain, which is something I really wanted to do. So it's not just a bunch of content dumped in there, or here's a bunch of things you should do, but it goes into how to apply it. There are tools and things you can download to actually use within your company to make these real. But then it relates it to real life, and how does it work in the real world? How has it worked in my experience? And just kind of the storyline that weaves through the entire book.
Nice. And it's amazing that having knowledge and the ability to share it in an engaging way, that's a totally different skill, wouldn't you say?
I think so. Yeah, a lot of people know a lot of things, but it's how do you unpack that IP, get it out of our head, and make it where somebody else can consume it.
Yeah.
And not just have it to where it's interesting, or it's good knowledge, or now they know something more, but how do they apply it? There's really no value in knowing something unless you're doing it, unless it affects your life, it affects your business, and you can apply it and get a different result. So knowing things isn't powerful, but doing things with that knowledge is incredibly powerful.
Oh, definitely. And I remember when I give a lot of trainings. And each time I'm training something, I'm sharing my experience, sharing my skills, knowledge. I actually learn more about the stuff than my students, I sometimes say, because the real learning is in transferring that information to another person.
Right.
And then you start thinking about it, how to put it in words, and so it will affect them and it will stay with them. So you start thinking more deeply on the knowledge you have and the wisdom. So it actually got more ingrained in your brain. Did you have a similar experience when writing your book?
Yes, because it had to be organized, it had to be consumable. And so it really had to be clear in my mind. And so just, here's something that you should do. Well, why is that? How did we get there? How did I learn that? How did I apply that? What difference did it make? And really kind of backing into kind of the why behind it. So it's really the why and the what, and then the how is the application piece. And then the experiential of here are the tools to go implement it yourself. So they're actually doing that. But it definitely created a lot more clarity in my mind and in my business, and being able to figure out how do I present that to somebody in a way that makes sense and that they can use.
Nice. So, and it probably inspired you to write the second book, because I believe we have a little scoop. There's a second book coming up, right?
There is another book that will be out early next year, early 2023. It's called The Captain's Keys: The 4 Key People Every Successful Leader Needs.
Nice. So, do you have a certain theme with water, so to speak? Because the first one was about the fish. Now you're talking about captains and having the sailor hats behind you.
Right. I think there's definitely a theme. Certainly water. The fish. I spend a lot of time on and under the water. My nickname, my team gave me the nickname Captain a number of years ago. So that's actually one of the reasons that the book has the title as well, because entrepreneurs CEOs are very much like captains, and related. And just like the first book, the second one is very much story as well. So narrative along with content, and bringing those two things together.
Nice. And would you say it's totally different than your first book, or is it like like a supplement? Does it complement the other book?
I think it's complementary. They're two different topics, two different subjects. I do think they complement each other, but they are different. So each one stands alone.
Nice. And were you approached again to write a second book, or was it your own
Uh,
imagination thinking about it?
Both. So yeah, I had an opportunity to continue on, had an opportunity to work with another publisher. This one I'm actually going to self-publish. And so that gives me a lot more freedom and flexibility in how it's distributed, how the content, uh, what different channels and platforms it can be on. So it just gives a lot more creative freedom.
Hmm.
That was one of the big struggles, even with the first one, of how much creative freedom. Uh, just is it because it's not totally a parable, but there's certainly some pieces of story in there. There's a story that goes through the entire book, so it's not a true parable. But there were some challenges even with the publisher of we not sure about this because they're just thinking it should just be a straight content business book, and if there's anything I am, it is unconventional, and so I want to do things differently. I don't want to be the same as everything else. And so I really wanted to do that. And so it was really kind of the thought process behind it is I just want to make sure that I have complete creative freedom and able to deliver the message and the content in a way that makes sense and resonates, and have the control to be able to distribute that. If I want to give it away, I could do that. If I want to sell it, I can do that. If we want to add additional things to it and not have any other constraints around that. So that was really the reason I wanted to do the second one that way.
Nice, nice. And did writing your first book help you creating the second one by the learnings you got and how to write compelling stories and stuff like that? Or was it
I
still the
think
same
so.
struggle?
Yeah, I think it's always a struggle. Writing a book is difficult, and it's kind of funny. By the time you get to the end of the first one, I was thinking, I don't want to do another one. This is hard. I think it's kind of like having kids, right? And maybe it's different for guys. We got three kids, and so after that, the first one's like, I don't know if we're ready for a second one yet. But then a little bit of time passes, and you go, let's do another one. And so I think books are kind of the same way. Is a little bit of time passes, and you go, okay, I'm ready for that pain again. And so that's kind of how it happened.
Nice. So just so you mentioned you had three kids yourself, and you didn't come from an entrepreneurial background yourself within your family. How does being an entrepreneur influences your kids?
Well, I think it's really interesting. It certainly influences their perspective, and I think that's been really healthy. And just seeing different things, and we've been involved and had them involved in a number of different ventures, whether they've worked for companies or just been a part of other things that we've done. And I think it's really broadened their minds, broadened their horizons of what's possible. So instead of really just seeing one path of this is how the world works and this is what I'm expected to do, really has opened up quite a bit for them as far as possibility. So instead of asking the question, I wonder if I can do something, they start thinking about, well, how can I do something? And
Nice.
so it's just that small shift of thinking about, I know that's possible. How can I make it happen? How can I get that outcome that I want? How can I achieve that dream? Not, I wonder if I can do that, or I hope I can someday, or I wish I could. But it's just that small shift of, how can I make that happen? If it's something that's important to me, what steps do I need to take to get to that point I want to get to?
Nice. Nice. And what age range are your kids, Jeff?
They are now, well, I say three kids. Now they're three adults. We have 28 to 22.
Ah, okay, nice. And are they also entrepreneurs, or are they work in the corporate world?
Some of both. So they all have some sort of entrepreneurial venture that they're doing either full time or part time.
Mm-hmm.
And oldest one is a social worker, and is doing things that are, one, amazing, and two, that I could never do. And just having that giant heart of compassion and helping people. Yeah, I think it's wonderful, and also I think incredibly difficult, and
Yeah.
something that is maybe not nearly as recognized as it should be for the good that it does. Second one is a graphic designer, and so has been very entrepreneurial in that, and is working with a firm as well as independently. And youngest is entrepreneurial as well, and so we've been involved in real estate for quite a few years, and so he is continuing on in that, and very very creative with his hands. So anything from electrical to plumbing to carpentry to building things. I mean, just a brilliant mind of being able to conceptualize something and create. And so that's really really fun to see.
Nice. And it's also wonderful that you speak full admiration about your kids, that they're doing what they're great at, and you support them in that. So it
Yes,
doesn't feel like um, the old school, like do your best at school, get a degree, and get a job thing. It's just do what you're great at, what you love to do, and we'll support you all the way.
absolutely. I actually get asked that quite a bit. Are the kids, are they going to take over the business? Are they entrepreneurial? And they're not me. They should do whatever it is that they're great at, and their strengths are different than my strengths.
Yeah.
And so, and I love to see them really just come into their own and do what they love and have a huge impact to the world, make money, and just be loving life, because they are really fulfilled in what they're doing. And so it doesn't have to be the same as me. And
Yeah.
so I think that's a really beautiful thing, that they can express themselves, they can contribute and do great things that are different than what I do.
Nice. And it's also, I think it's what separates you from other, let's say, coaches or mentors, because what one of my coaches said, how you do one thing is how you do everything. So the way you're talking about how you're supporting your kids, I can imagine it's the same with the entrepreneurs you're helping. You're not asking them to do the same as you do, because there are not you, right? They
Right.
are unique persons, and the only thing what you do, as far as I can imagine, is empower them. You give them some tips, some tricks, how to structure the business, maybe even better. But put them in their own strengths and not tell them, listen to what I do. You do it this way or the highway.
Correct. And I think that's really important because tactics change over time. And so, we can teach somebody how to build a funnel today, or how marketing works. And there are some fundamentals in that remain constant for thousands of years. Human nature is what it is.
Yeah,
But how some of the mechanics about that will change all the time. But if we can change how people think and have them see problems differently, or if they're seeing it this way, if we can just take it and maybe turn it sideways, and now they're seeing it from a different angle, and provide some solutions, some guidance, support, then they're able to really break through a lot of those barriers a lot faster than if we just give them a roadmap and say, go do steps A, B, and C and come back and tell me how it worked out. But if we can teach them how to think, how to solve that problem, then we not only solve it for now, but next time they see that, those I recognize it. It may look a little bit different. It's turned a little bit differently, but I recognize it, and I know how to tackle it because I understand how to view that.
yeah, exactly. It's not what you do. It's exactly the why behind it. What you
Yes.
already shared. What you talked about in the book as well. If you know the why you do things the way you do it, then you can apply it in different situations as well.
Yes. Yeah. Why is so important.
Yeah. Well, Simon Sinek wrote a whole book about it. Start with why, and it makes sense.
I think as an entrepreneur, that's really important, is to really understand not just the why you do things, why you want to solve a problem, but the why you're in the business, why you do what you do. Because being an entrepreneur is hard. There are times where it is fantastic and wonderful, and there are days where you think, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to give up. I want to quit. But it's understanding, what is that why? Why am I here? Why am I doing this? Why is it important? And when you do that, that's when you say, okay, it would be really easy just to quit and give up right now, but I can't because my why is too big.
Yeah.
And you're still committed to that. So it just has to be big enough to support that commitment.
Yeah. So, Jeff, you've already been a very successful entrepreneur, building businesses, helping other business owners. what's your own outlook? Where do you see yourself standing in about 2 to 5 years from now?
I really see myself doing very much the same thing. So I love what I do, love the clients that I work with, and so want to continue doing that. So making a difference. And so, it may look exactly the same 5 years from now. It may look a little bit differently, but I will definitely be helping people and having an impact, because that's my big why, is having that impact. And that's really what drives me today. And I expect it will 5 years, 10 years, 50 years from now, if I'm still here.
Exactly. I know exactly what you mean. I started my entrepreneurial journey 7 years ago myself. And I still remember when I told it to my mother that she said something, I'm very proud of you, and I admire you for doing that. But please remember to put some money aside for your retirement. And I said, Mom, I understand you. I know where you're coming from, but I'm going to do the things I love to do. It's my passion. I
Yes.
love helping people in a coaching way, empowering them, seeing them successful makes me feel successful as well. Why should I stop when I'm 65 or 70? Right? I
Right.
can I can do this still when I'm 80, when I'm 90. So why should I stop? Right?
Exactly.
And
And you
that's
really create a business that supports that freedom. So I don't ever see myself stopping. But I definitely want to have and do have free time, and want to spend that doing things that I love. Go diving. Yeah, spend that time on the water. I think that's a lot of fun. But yeah, I don't ever see myself stopping or retiring, or maybe even slowing down from helping people and having that impact.
yeah, nice. So any aspiration for starting a third book?
I'm sure there will be one. Once we get this one out, it'll be the same kind of thing. Oh, I never want to go through that pain again. And a little bit of time will pass, and there will be a third book.
Nice, nice. So is there a particular client that comes to mind that when you think about it was a great success or a great surprise you in a certain way that you can share in the podcast?
There are so many, and yeah, I think one of the big ones is just really seeing growth. I remember I have a client that asked at the beginning, uh, I'm an introvert. Can I build a business? And it got it to they're actually doing fairly well. A SaaS company, and we're just short of 1 million in ARR. And asking, I'm an introvert. I don't really want to sell. It's not my strong suit. I don't know if I can manage people. Um, yeah, I don't know if I can do it. And so it just, again, just kind of that little mindset shift of course, being an introvert or extrovert, it doesn't matter. Absolutely, you can be successful. Thinking about those limitations, they're only limitations if you let them be limitations.
Exactly.
So again, it kind of comes back to that same question. Instead of, can I do this? How can I do this? So, what skills do you have you can leverage? What skills do you maybe you're a little bit weaker in that you can find somebody else that is their strong suit, and come alongside you and have that complementary relationship where you're working together to build something great. What does that look like? How do you build out your executive team? And so, having those kinds of successes, and then you just watch the rocket ride. And looking back, they're like, I didn't know that this was possible, or how much fun it could be.
Yeah,
And it really is when you're doing that with the right team, and you have the right people in place, to help you along that journey. It makes it a lot of fun. So I think destinations are great, and we want to have those mountaintop experiences and peak moments, but those are short. They happen every once in a while, and they don't last. But it's the people on the journey with you. That's what does last. It's the relationships that you build. It's the investments that you make.
yeah.
It's the bonds that you build for life. That's really what it's about. Not just those peak moments, not just the destination.
Definitely. It reminds me of a training I did myself, and we had a daily mindset training we had to do. And our trainer said you have to have a purpose to fulfill this training, right? Because it's a daily listening to 20 minutes audio. And my purpose was, and the goal I set for myself was to become the very best hypnotherapist of the world. Well, that's quite ambitious, right?
Yes, that's really ambitious.
Right. Will I ever be able to reach that point? Maybe. You don't hear me say no, right?
Right.
Will I be able to prove it? Probably not, because when I start declaring myself as the best hypnotherapist of the world, probably somebody will stand up and say, what are you talking about? You're just 10 years in business. I'm already 40, 50 years in business. Come back when you got some experience. But that's not the point for me. The point is that having this great, ambitious goal keeps me learning every day. I admire people that are further down the road than I am, and I look what I can learn from them. I learn from my clients. I learn from my kids. From my wife. I learn from everybody. I learn from you as well doing this podcast. It gives you a growth mindset, and it's not about what you said. It's not about the end goal. It's about the journey towards it, and I'm enjoying every step of it.
That's fantastic.
And that's indeed what you say. You meet so many wonderful people down the road. You're building relationships, you're growing together, and that's what makes it fun and desirable. And it's not about this one big goal, because if you reach that point, if you reach that peak, so what's next, right? Should you stop or whatever? Yeah, nice. So Jeff, I think we could spend hours on talking about business, helping clients. And if there's one little piece of wisdom or tip you would like to share with the audience, what would it be, Jeff?
I think, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. And so it's really, asking the right questions. How can I do that? What's possible? What would the world look like if I did? So I think those are really good questions to ask.
Yeah. It's indeed it falls in the same category as changing the if in when.
Right.
Not I don't know if I can do it, or I don't know when I can do it, because it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, and then you're more committed than the first option. So
yes.
And
I think that makes a lot of sense too. And entrepreneurs do that a lot. I'll do this today, and one day when I fill in the blank, then I will. And so it could be, one day when I sell my company, then I'll be happy. Then I'll spend time with my family. Then I will, finally be fulfilled. And why not now? Why not do those things today instead of someday? How can you build that into your business today, where you do have that time, where you are really enjoying the process, not just waiting for someday when but doing that today.
Yeah. It's what one of my coaches also said. Someday is not a day of the week.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Yeah, nice. So if people want to know more about you, Jeff, or get in touch with you, or maybe even pre-order your book, how can they do that?
Sure. You can get the book at Amazon or anywhere books are sold. The book website is smallfishbigpond.com. My company website is championleadership.com, and you can find me on all social media. It's at Jeff K. Mains, middle initial K, at Jeff K. Mains on all platforms.
Nice. So it was really great talking with you, Jeff. You shared a lot of information, a lot of wisdom as well, and knowledge. So really appreciate that. I hope it inspires the audience as well. Love talking to you and have you in the show. So let me know how the next book will go, and let's keep in touch.
Sounds great. Thank you.
I hope you liked this episode. Make sure to check out the other episodes, because each one is filled with interesting and inspiring stories and energy. Are you following your passion as well and make a good living out of it? Contact me and you could be my next guest. Would you like to follow your passion but are not there yet? Check out my website millionairelifestrategy.com and book an appointment to discover what I could do for you. Don't forget to share the podcast with your friends so that they get inspired as well.